Hello, I'm Eric Snodgrass, and thank you for watching today's Ag Forecast brought to you by Nutrien Ag Solutions, your premier platform for real-time global insights. I want to encourage you right away to pause the video because the map you're looking at here shows the difference in total accumulated precipitation from March 1st to April 25th when I compare that time period from 2019 to 2020. So anywhere on this map where you see blues, that represents where 2019 was wetter. We're talking about inches of precipitation. The reds indicate where 2020 was wetter. Just pause the video and take a close look at your particular area. Now, the reason why I show you this map is to put it in comparison to this one. Now, this map shows you calculated soil moisture anomaly change from March 31st of this year through April 25th. And my main story is to look at the differences in the midsection of the United States. Because over the last 25 days or so, we've actually had several windier and warmer days that allowed the soils to dry out some. We can see that inside that circle I just drew. Meanwhile, it's been extremely wet through parts of the Cotton Belt, specifically parts of southern Georgia, southern South Carolina, getting into northern Florida, and we've worked hard on helping to eliminate the drought in parts of southern Texas. Out west, California, major improvement here, especially in Southern California and the overall drought stress. But during the weekend, the storm system that moved through the midsection of the United States, where we're really trying to rapidly plant a crop here, well, it dropped a lot of rainfall. This is just the last 72 hours of total accumulated precipitation. And there was a pocket there in parts of central Illinois, right through parts of where the Illinois River runs, like around Peoria, that saw better than 3 inches of rainfall. Now, where I live over here in eastern Illinois, in a town called Champaign, we had 2 inches of rain between Friday and into Saturday. But on Sunday, with warmer conditions and windier conditions, I didn't even have any water in my ditch. And what's amazing to think about here was that a big difference between 19 and 20 is that we got a decent shot here over the last 25 days or so at drying out the midsection of the country. And that is going to help open up planting windows after the system we just talked about here is finally moving on off to the north and east. Now, in the overnight hours into early this morning, we actually had some snow spreading in the northeast with this system. It was in the interior at the higher elevations here, but it just shows you how cool things are in the northeastern part of the United States. The next two systems to be talking about are moving into the northwestern part of the United States. As you can see, the cloud cover there in Oregon and Washington. We need to pay close attention to what's coming out of Montana right there, as it's going to set up for some severe weather in the midsection of the country on Tuesday. But out ahead of this, well, we've seen the Central Plains and parts of Nebraska, Iowa, Missouri, some early morning showers and some scattered thunderstorms there. But I'm going to pause the video right at the very end to show you what's going on between all of that. Because in parts of Michigan, Illinois, Indiana, and Ohio, getting down to Kentucky and Tennessee, skies cleared out overnight. And our concern with the clearing skies was also the calm winds. Now look over the state of Indiana. You see all the circles that are there? Each one of those circles without a wind barb tells me that the winds were calm, and that extends up into parts of Michigan as well. Now, the temperatures were cooling off pretty rapidly early this morning, such that they were getting down into the low 30s, and a couple of spots did hit freezing. But overall, the region was spared from a widespread frost event by two things. One, the temperatures couldn't get much below that 34-degree mark because the moisture content in the lower atmosphere is relatively high. The dew point was sitting between 32 and 34 degrees, which means we were getting a fog. And fogs that are formed when this happened help to, one, release heat and then prevent continued radiational cooling. Secondly, over in Ohio, some lighter winds kept us from hitting the freezing mark. And as you get over to Illinois, the winds were coming up out of the south, which was really warming things up. So this was just an area and a time that I was concerned about a very late frost. But it looks as though, when we look at the forecast for the rest of the morning, because I had to record this before we hit those morning temperatures, those morning minimum temperatures, that we're going to miss that frost event, which is good. Now, we're going to come back to these temperatures in just a few minutes. But before I get there, I want to talk to you about the weather systems we're going to be dealing with this week. Here's a shortwave that brought the scattered showers and storms into parts of Iowa, Missouri, and eastern Nebraska this morning. That wave's going to continue to move through the mid-south today. But the bigger show is going to come out of this wave right in through here. Now watch what happens to it. This is today, midday. This is now getting into tomorrow, midday. On Tuesday, that wave really becomes more amplified and begins to dig into the central part of the United States. By the time we go to Wednesday, the main shortwave is lined up there basically from Wisconsin into Illinois. But notice how highly amplified it becomes, with winds basically running north-south here and north-south there. Because of that, by the time I go to Thursday, that wave only moves from basically lining up on the western side of Lake Michigan to just lining up over Lake Huron. And that's what happens when you have more meridional flow. In other words, the more north-south the jet stream winds are, the slower it is in progressing across the United States. But look at that ridge behind this. That's going to signal a big warm-up for the end of this week. But we got to deal with this trough as it digs in the middle part of the country, increasing our chances for strong to severe storms. So throughout the day today, the map in the upper left, we're going to keep a close eye on this part of Texas for some isolated strong thunderstorms. But it's as the main wave moves on Tuesday, that's the map that's in the upper right here, on Tuesday into the midsection of the country, large region from the Storm Prediction Center encompassed in that slight risk, that's the yellow, with the enhanced risk area right in here in parts of Arkansas, Oklahoma, and Texas, where we're watching for the potential for a strong, long, damaging squall line. As we get into the day on Wednesday, the severe weather threat, we have a marginal threat that extends right here along the Gulf Coast, getting up into South Carolina. So we better take a look at what this storm system is going to do, and let's just play for you here our next 60 hours getting out here into Wednesday morning. So that's the storm system that we are concerned about. Taking you back here into the early morning hours this morning, there's our widely scattered showers that move through the center part of the country. We also have some light rain that moved through parts of Minnesota into northern Wisconsin. In the meantime, system number 1 is still putting down snow in parts of Vermont, New Hampshire, New York, and up into Maine. We're getting through midday on Monday, so this is noon on Monday Central Time, into the early afternoon hours. We see the widespread rain moving through parts of Wisconsin over into Michigan, and to the south of it, maybe some isolated thunderstorms that get down here and through the Ozarks. So we can see really running right through here midday today. Now, as we progress through the afternoon and evening hours, we have a few things to be watching. Maybe some isolated storms in Texas, more scattered showers through parts of central Illinois, getting over to Indiana, Ohio, and up into Michigan. But notice the next system is emerging here, coming out of the north central plains, and as that system pulls out of parts of Wyoming and Montana into the Dakotas and into Nebraska, that's going to be the storm system we're going to watch out for on Tuesday. So tomorrow morning, 6 a.m., widely scattered showers through parts of the Ohio Valley, getting back into parts of the central Mississippi Valley, right in through here. But you can see already early in the morning the potential for squall line-like activity out of the storm system. This is Tuesday morning, getting into late morning. This is now 11 o'clock, noon, early afternoon. It'll be at this point that I'm going to watch this main outflow boundary right in through here for the chance for the strong to severe storms to push through Kansas and Missouri, and then eventually into Oklahoma, southern Missouri, and Arkansas, with the northern edge of it pushing through parts of Illinois. On the backside, we can see the lighter rain moving through parts of Wisconsin, Minnesota, and then behind it, we even have the chance for some scattered showers and storms right here, pushing from the Red River Valley down to where the Big Sioux River is, over towards Sioux Falls, and then into this section of Nebraska. Now watch, this is Tuesday evening, getting into the overnight hours. And my biggest concern is look at the scattered storms through parts of the eastern Corn Belt stretching into this broad squall line that's going to stretch, all the way from, where the Ohio and Mississippi River meet through parts of Arkansas down into Texas. And that's going to push in the overnight hours through that area. We could have the chance for a widespread damaging wind event down here, while on the backside of it, light rain moves through parts of Iowa, Wisconsin, and Michigan, with a big, deep dry slot cutting into the backside of that. Now, as that system pulls on through, we need to switch over to the European model to see how things evolve after this. So we've watched up to this point. This is now Tuesday night, getting into Wednesday morning here, Wednesday afternoon and evening. Now, what I want you to watch is, first of all, this system on Wednesday evening, the severe weather threat will move over into parts of Tennessee, Kentucky, down into parts of Georgia and Alabama. But on the back side of it, high pressure already starts to build in here by Wednesday evening, and the scattered showers move out of the way for parts of Iowa, Missouri, and Illinois. Now, the winds that you see back here are going to be quite strong with the system. So let's watch this one again as it gets to that point right here, and then watch what happens beyond this. So Wednesday afternoon and evening, now getting into early morning on Thursday. As this system wraps itself up and slowly moves to the north and east, the main band of showers and storms stretches down here all the way to Florida. But look at the center part of the country. Ready? This is Thursday morning, Thursday afternoon and evening, Friday morning, afternoon and evening, We're going to watch a little clipper system move through the Canadian prairies, maybe giving some light showers here to parts of North Dakota, northern Minnesota. But what do you see? There's a big section of the U.S. that's going to go on a major warm-up toward the end of the week behind that system and be relatively dry until I get you out to maybe Saturday afternoon and evening, getting into Sunday morning. And all I'm worried about at this point is some widely scattered showers in through this area on Sunday morning. High pressure cell pumping in that moisture, low pressure trying to form in here, but it's sandwiched between this high pressure cell and this one. And so we just need to watch out for some widely scattered showers that move on Sunday out of the Central Plains over into the Central Corn Belt and then the Eastern Corn Belt by Sunday night. See how fast that moves though? That's just not enough time to dump a lot of rain. So we have several days in through here where conditions are going to be favorable to get some field work done. Now, as we've already worked our way out into the next week, we need to talk about how precipitation is setting up in the next week by shifting over to that longer term outlook. But first, this is just a snapshot of the next 7 days in terms of total accumulated precipitation. With that broader system stalling out here and with the showers and storms that will be increasing precipitation amounts down that line pressing toward the south and east, we can see some heavier rain. But if you look back here and then really in through this area, well, just get your eyes oriented here. That's less than 1/3 of an inch of rainfall overall through the next week, and it's very dry, stretching from parts of western Texas to California. So compared to normal, this is what precipitation looks like. So again, snapshot compared to normal over the next week. Windows are opening for the western Corn Belt and the Central Plains, okay? From there, let's talk about week 2. The jet stream has been advertising this pattern for a while. Anchored to deeper cold here over the northeast. Temperatures are going to take a while to rebound there. But what we need to watch is for little shortwaves to come around the trough in the Gulf of Alaska, run over the top of this ridge, and then down into the north central plains. They are not heavy precipitation producers, but they could increase the chances of rainfall as this all meets up with the subtropical jet stream here, keeping things wet. You'll see in just a few moments down in the southern part of the United States. This does mean broad warmth spreading, though, at times in the eastern half of the United States, while colder air is anchored right here over the north and east. So take a look at it. GFS on the left, European on the right. You can see that flow pattern, right? In both models. What I want you to notice is these precipitation anomalies are not way over here in the 1 to 3 inch or 1 to 5 inch range on either model. It's just slightly wetter than normal, and that is a major difference than a year ago during this exact same time period. In fact, the flow is quite different. So that's some good news as we work our way into the month of May. To show you some analog support, again, you can see the chances of being slightly wetter than average in through here and here for days 9 through 11, and again in this area for days 12 through 14. But overall, not the soaking pattern that we saw a year ago. Now, what are these temperatures going to do? Well, let's look at high temperatures each day this week. Starting off on Monday, those high temperatures are quite warm. Look at that again through the central part of the United States while the Northeast hangs on cold. As we work our way into Tuesday, the warmth starts to spread into the central Corn Belt. Look at Michigan finally getting some temperatures here into the upper 60s. That's going to be nice. But with the system that pulls through Tuesday night into Wednesday morning, we do get a drop off in the temperatures on the back side of this. But look at the heat spreading into the west. From Wednesday into Thursday, that heat starts to spread. Look at the temperatures in Wyoming, for crying out loud, all the way down to parts of Texas. In fact, speaking of Texas, on Friday, maybe some triple-digit heat in the panhandles here. Very, very warm. And on Saturday, that continues to spread to the east. Look at that. As we work our way into the weekend, maybe it's just a cool down, slightly cooler than average for the north central plains, but this is nothing like we had been seeing with the really, really cold air. What about the longer term? Let's switch over. Oh, real quick, before I do that, with those high temperatures, I just want to bring something to your attention. We could be seeing evaporation rates getting over 2 inches per week here with the extreme heat that's coming into parts of the panhandles here. Just wanted to point that one thing out to you, looking at a total evaporation map through the next 7 days. Now let's look a little bit longer term. Days 6 through 10. Remember, the pattern at this time was doing something like this. Both models keeping the above average temperatures in this area with the cooler weather tucked away here in the eastern and northeastern part of the United States and Canadian Maritimes. But here's one of the things I need to call into question. Days 11 through 15. During that time period, while the GFS has much flatter pattern and less extreme cold, the European is really packing in that colder weather and trying to highly amplify the pattern with much warmer out west and cooler across the east. Therefore, the European model also on May 7th and 8th has brought back in the chance, and it is quite small, but north of the black line I just drew there, of getting a freezing temperature again. We're talking 10 to 20%. But that's what it's doing with that deeper trough that's over the eastern part of the United States. Now here's what I want to tell you, and the thing we're going to be studying this week. This is not consistent with these features. The Mad-Julian oscillation right now from the latest forecast models possibly comes out of phase 3 running up into phase 5, 6, and 7. If it does so at a little bit higher amplitude, these are warmer phases for the eastern part of the United States. The European model is also hinting at something like that. And if it does come around at that same time that the global winds come past their peak here and start to come back down, that could line up with what looks to be a westerly wind burst here, meeting up with an easterly wind burst. And what that does is that increases convection just to the west of the international date line. Now, how does all this translate? It translates into a faster, more zonal jet stream wind that retreats north. And that means we'll lose the high amplitude by the time we get into the first week of May, and that would reduce the chances of that frost. That's what I'm trying to paint in terms of this picture here. I'm going to tell you more about this in my long-range technical outlook on Wednesday. To finish this up, I want to talk quickly about Brazil. We've been looking at the Vegetation Health Index as measured from space, and parts of southern Brazil and Paraguay are coming off the bottom end of this chart, and that is really impacting that area. We've seen over the last week deficits in soil moisture in Mato Grosso do Sul, getting down over here into Paraná and Rio Grande do Sul. And that is the area that as we look at where we grow our safrinha crop, we have quite a bit of it. Goiás, Mato Grosso do Sul, Paraná, and even some down in Rio Grande do Sul, which is down here. So as we look out into the forecast the next week, much of Brazil's growing areas are showing a drier bias in the European model, with Argentina showing up wet. In fact, we had some thunderstorm activity just there recently. But into week 2, overall, it's beginning to relax and we're seeing more normal precipitation. But remember, normal precipitation in mid-May is the end of the monsoon season here. Finally, the last thing I want to talk with you about is Europe. We've been discussing the drier conditions in parts of Europe, and it's starting to show up well when comparing to a year ago with the vegetation health. Anywhere that you see those warmer colors, those tan colors, represents where the vegetation health looks worse than it did a year ago. But over the next 15 days, models have been pretty consistent over the weekend trying to paint wetter conditions for a broad sector of Europe and the Russian wheat belt. So, just want to give you that international perspective as we go ahead and wrap up this forecast video. I want to thank you for your attention. I look forward to talking to you again each day this week. Have a good one. We'll talk to you again very soon.